Trent might not be the only defender leaving the club in the summer because Ibu Konate, I think he's been brilliant this season and perhaps has a case to be in team of the season, but he will only have a year left on his deal at the end of this season. And once again, surprise, surprise, Real Madrid are supposedly interested in signing him. How much do you think that we need to worry about Konate's future? Because seemingly progress was made on a contract, but then since the reporting, it's been months of radio silence, basically.
Yeah, it is a worry. There's no doubts about it. I think he's a massive part of Liverpool's success this season, and keeping him fit has been an absolute triumph. That's been the big question mark over him for a long time, hasn't it? But he's been, apart from being fallen on by Hendrick, he's been fit all season. He was very unlucky with that injury and the way it came about. He's just a phenomenal player. He's coming into it. He was quite young when he signed for Liverpool, and he's really coming into his peak now. So it's a concern, and I think the ideal situation for everyone is that they sign him up. It's frustrating also that it's Real Madrid who are involved. I mean, I wish they'd kind of find their own targets. They're always involved where Liverpool are, either signing players from them or trying to pick them up on frees, or they're also in for Dean House at the moment, aren't they? So that's a nightmare for Liverpool. So it's a tough one, really. Did they have a decision to make in terms of whether, if they can't get this contract sorted, they just sell now? But again, there's already so many question marks and areas where players are likely to leave coming into this summer that it's going to, we're talking about a transition season. You're going to make it even worse if you start to force sales like Ibu Konate. I think the ideal situation is now Liverpool are back to having a sporting director in place. They've got all that structure back, and the recruitment staff is settled, and as it hasn't been in the couple of years prior to this, that you avoid situations like this developing, that you're already ahead of it before it even gets to 2 years. That's the ideal, but this is a little bit of a hangover from the uncertainty and the revolving door in the sporting director's office, and very, very difficult to predict which way this one's going to play out. But I wonder whether Liverpool would you just accept the short-term pain of not receiving a fee for Konate. You just say, look, this is the hand we were dealt when we came in here, and not selling him this summer because question marks over Joe Gomez, huge question marks over Jarell Quansah, every other part of the pitch, midfield, centre forward, on the wings, that there are doubts over players. So I just wonder whether they'd rather take the hit on the fee in the end, even if they can't sort this out. But as I say, I think the ideal situation is that they do sort it out and they sign into a new long-term contract. But we will see, because it has gone quiet and I haven't had much encouragement on that front.
Yeah, that was going to kind of be my topic for a follow-up question, because I know Liverpool have lost so many players for free over the last years. You think back to Emre Can, Gini Wijnaldum, Bobby Firmino, and then most recently Trent Alexander-Arnold this season. But with Konate, do you think that the club can even afford to let him go? Because if you think about it, that the club could be in the market for a new starting right back, but we'll see how that develops. They are in the market for a new starting left back. And then to rip up three of the usual defenders in the back four, that would be asking a lot of Van Dijk. And then also consider the fact that there might be a new midfielder, there might be a new left winger, there might be a new striker. Can we even afford to lose that many players? Because we've won the Premier League title this season based off continuity. So getting rid of so many players, is that something that we, even if it's painful to lose Konate for free, just something that we have to accept?
This is why I don't buy so much, all of the stories that are coming out around some of the players. I would accept that you can kind of go front to back and say how many players there are doubts over in this squad. In fact, it's probably easy to say the ones there aren't. You think kind of Kostas Tsimikas, Joe Gomez, Jarell Quansah, Trent's going in midfield. Endo, they would probably sell. Harvey Elliott, question marks there. Up front, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Federico Chiesa. They can't all go. And there's I would say confidently now, there's no way they all go. And there will be some of them that want to go that are kept, against their will almost, because Liverpool will not want to get into a situation where they are selling 8 and need to buy 6 or 7. They just won't, because that is one way to guarantee that you have a really bad transition season, and potentially, if other sides around you strengthen and things go wrong and you get a few injuries or whatever, you could go from being title challengers or title winners to kind of scrapping for top 4 or 5. So it's, they've got to be very careful and manage that. And so I think a massive part of this summer and the narrative around it is going to be kind of managing, it's going to be timing, really. If a bid comes in for, if a bid comes in for Jarell Quansah and it's a huge bid and it comes in before one for Joe Gomez and Liverpool accept it and Quansah goes, maybe that decides what happens with Joe Gomez and the fact he doesn't go. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of it's going to come down to that, because they're going to want to, as much as this is going to be a summer of change and you can guarantee it, and there will be a certain amount of turnover, they're going to want to limit it to something that's manageable and keep some degree of continuity going into next season. That's going to be absolutely massive, I think. So, similarly, I think this is it. I think with Konate is that because there's already that change, they're almost going to have to, if you can't sort this contract, just bite the bullet and lose him for free. And I would say as well, to kind of, they have lost a few players for frees on frees in recent years, but I would say a lot of those as well have been decisions that Liverpool have taken to do so. They've not necessarily needed to generate funds from selling them, and they've thought, well, we either get 10 million for someone here, say Emre Can in the last year of his contract, we either get 10 million for him now, or we kind of just say, get us in the top 4 this season, and then you can go, and we're kind of happy with that, and everybody shakes hands. They took that decision with Firmino. We've had absolute brilliance for him. He's paid back his transfer fee. He's been worth all the wages. Let's just let him run him down, and we'll keep him around, and he'll still be useful in that final year. But then, then he moves on. So a lot of them have been decisions he've made. Trent's a different case to that, but I think Liverpool are willing to at times allow people to leave on frees if it suits them. I just think Konate will be a slightly painful one because he's coming into his peak years, and if it is Real Madrid, that is just frustrating because that's what they do.